there's a lag. So it's just, oh, they need this, but the VA needs this one, and you got to figure out the steps. Pretty much you're on your own to figure out, And so now I'm pretty much past the mark to start February 1st. I definitely will be starting March 1st because I have everything turned in now. Only thing they asked for was the military transcript, which I wasn't going to turn in because my advisor said it's perfectly fine because what I have on there is probably not translatable to my degree anyway, so they're probably going to turn it down.
Yeah.
But Western Governors wants it anyway.
Yeah. What's the good thing about like the non-traditional universities now is that they have classes starting like almost every month.
Yes.
That was the thing for me when I went to Full Sail. I started same thing like in February or something like that, and then I just kept going for 2.5 years. Every single month I had 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 classes every single month, just depending on the program itself. But that's what's the nice thing is you're not glued to, oh, you didn't start this semester, or you got to wait till the summer semester.
So I was supposed to start February 1st. Now I get to start March 1st because they start every 1st.
Yeah.
And you just have to have your paperwork turned in by, a certain time. And I mean, the benefits of what they're doing, like, schools pay for, they're taking care of me financially with some funds. And then they're supplying me with like the laptop and the things that I need to function in school.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah. How long is the program?
2 years.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us again for another podcast from Boots to Suits, the podcast dedicated to helping veterans transition from the military to the civilian world. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year. It is 2025. We've been gone for a little while. We just needed to take, we kind of jumped the gun. I got excited and kicked off from Boots to Suits way earlier than I had anticipated to doing it. Getting excited and then realizing like really quick, oh man, we're right up against the holiday schedule. And so, but it was good to just be around family.
Yeah.
My kids got sick, so we didn't even do any of that stuff for Christmas. It was kind of wild, but we made the best of it. Hopefully you guys had a phenomenal holiday season and are off to a great start in 2025. I'm John, your host, former paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division. Spent the last over a decade in the corporate field in HR, talent acquisition, employee relations. And my brother from another mother, Mr. Glenn Jr.
Yes, sir. I was aviation ordnanceman. United States Navy, spent after that just a wide range of employment stuff from prison guard, corrections to now working in the university setting. So here we at.
Yeah. I started rolling tape as we were just having this candid conversation because I felt like, man, there's some good stuff that we're talking about, especially when, you're going back to school and utilizing those benefits. And sometimes even that navigating those things can be quite difficult to get your stuff together. Like even for me, when I went back to university, it's been several years now, but those first initial things of having to apply to even get your post 9/11 or whatever GI Bill you're on, like just to get your GI Bill, you got to go in and people don't even know, like you got to go into the website, you got to apply for it, you got to turn in all these things. You also have to get with your academic advisor for that university. And then sometimes they have a great military liaison that can walk you through everything. And then sometimes they don't have the greatest military liaison. So you're kind of on your own and then dealing with working through the VA and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's very hard to go back and forth. Sometimes it can be confusing.
But yeah, that's the cool thing, man. Like we were talking about how nowadays you don't have to wait until January. You don't have to wait until August. And that used to be a huge setback for a lot of people. Like they would be excited about starting school and then their benefits didn't kick in or they didn't get approved, whatever the case was. And then now I've got to wait a whole another 6 months before. And then by then life happens. And then that excitement of going back to school, sets them back. And now they're, in this vicious cycle of going back and forth and back and forth. So that's the cool thing about today's world where the university systems, there's a lot of programs that just go, they start every single month,
Yeah, I think some of the universities are going to have to catch up to that. And I think some have with their online presence.
Right.
Because you can get an online degree from pretty much anywhere now. The top universities are adding this in because they know people want to come to their school but don't have the means to really, physically be there. So if I could take that class online, it's great, and you're still going to pay.
Right.
So the school's like, wait.
You know what? To each their own. If you're out there, do your research. If you're looking to go back to school, do your research on the school and the programs.
Yeah, it's never too late. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I'm really doing it because I have a great job now, but I'm really doing it because I really want that piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like I want to have the degree, so I'm going, and here we go.
Yeah, I feel you, man. My mom was like 38 when she graduated from college, and then I was 36, I want to say 35, 30, somewhere like that, 35, 36. So never too late. It's just a number.
Yeah,
it's
go get it. Go get it. I mean, it could change what's going on around you financially too. That paper could really help out and you move into another job, because somebody once told me school is more about the job is looking to see if you were able to last through some kind of pressure or maintain some,
Yeah. A lot of times too, you're exactly right. A lot of times too.
Well, man, I tell you what, you definitely proved some big points through your career of audio and doing the things that you did. You guys should look him up. I don't know if you can Google some of this stuff, but I promise you he's done some great things.
I've had the opportunity to do some really fun stuff. I have I got a good buddy of mine, that Latin Grammy Award winner, who took me under his wing for several years. In fact, when this was the studio, we produced a record that just got nominated this last year for the Tejano Music Awards here in Texas. Was the record of the year that we produced, and we did it right here out of the old recording studio here. So it's pretty wild that we've done some cool stuff. Unfortunately, I had to go back into like full-time corporate side of the house, but it is what it is, and I've had the opportunity to do some fun stuff. I can hang my hat up on something that I wanted to achieve since childhood, and got there. But pretty cool, man.
Yeah, now we're here with the pod.
Yeah,
and now we get to transition all of that great knowledge that you've gotten over the years and put that out to the masses in a different format.
Yeah,
not necessarily just music, but now we get to put that out in as a venture of helping fellow veterans, men, women, helping their families, so it's it all came around.
Yeah.
Now you're the valedictorian.
Something like that. But today's episode is really dedicated to walking through what it's like in that transition and what it's like in the initial, in those infancy stages of transition. So I actually had somebody reach out to me via email, and he said, said, "Hey, John, I'm getting out. I've been in for 8 years. I'm getting out in the next 6 months. And I'll be going on terminal leave, sometime probably 60 days, probably before that, I'll start terminal leave. What are the things that I need to be doing now to set myself up for success?" And it's kind of a loaded question, because there are so many different underliers and different factors that could take place. But my response was really identify what jobs you think you want to have, right? And I think I say this, but you have to not only identify the job that you think you want to go into, but you also need to look at, okay, am I moving back to San Antonio, Texas? Or am I moving to, somewhere, in Colorado or California or Arizona, like wherever you're going? You need to do your research on that job market for that specific area.
Absolutely.
Right? And what does that look like? Well, go on Indeed, go on Glassdoor, pick, make a list of 5, 7, 10 jobs that you want or think you would be able to slide into, and then do your research on that market. Because not all markets are the same.
Yes.
Every market is going to be different. Some are tech heavy, some are more labor heavy, things like that. So understanding what that market is doing in that current time. And then you can also, do some research and figure out what did that market do for the last year, And understanding those things will get you to, to understand, am I looking at the right jobs, for this market? And also using tools like Glassdoor, you can identify what is, the actual pay, the compensation for that market, for that particular job setting. You could even look up companies in that area and find on Glassdoor, what each position pays for on an annual salary or hourly wage. And then you can also get reviews from there. But I think that's a huge thing to do right out of, as you're doing your research of I'm getting out, is looking at the job markets that you're planning on going into and positioning yourself, to understand what those look like. Last thing you want to do is get out and not even have a clue of what that job market did. And you just moved your entire family over there. You just moved to that market, and it is not at all the market that you wanted to be in for the specific jobs that you're looking for.
Yeah, a little research goes a long way, especially if you're picking up a family to move. You might want to sit down for a good 30 days and just go over the different areas you may want to move to. Break that down there. I want to live in Texas, Chicago, Wyoming.
Yeah.
And see what the job market is there, because they do pay differently. What you might make in Chicago is not what you possibly won't be making here in Texas.
Yeah. Well,
and can that suffice with your current situation that you're in, bills?
Right. Yeah,
stuff.
And even in Texas, what we pay here in like the San Antonio market is different from the Austin market, is different from the Houston market, is different from the Dallas market. It's very, very different. And even those job markets in themselves are very different. Austin's a little bit more tech heavy than the San Antonio market. San Antonio market is very much call center heavy or BPO heavy. And the outskirts of San Antonio are more manufacturing facilities and, kind of that line production work style, like very different from what you're going to find in Dallas. And then in Houston, there's a lot of, it's a big oil town. So a very different market over there as well. Are you looking for a company that is a local company? Are you looking for a company that is multi-state? Are you looking for a company that is international? Yes. That can very much depend on where you should be looking at moving to find the job that you're looking for.
Yes.
So San Antonio is not going to be that international heavy, but Houston would be.
Yes.
So
different hubs.
Very, very much so different hubs, and just depends on the type of job that you're looking for. That's probably what I would say is probably step one in doing your research of preparing yourself to get out of the military and start looking at, the different job markets and where you're going to. I think the other side is start working on that resume.
So important.
It's wildly important.
Yeah. Breaking it down, you're breaking down the job descriptions is going to be vital, in putting those key points into your resume. But while putting those things in your resume, you have to leave out the military jargon.
Yes.
So if you're just,
that's right,
the codes and the abbreviations that we use for the job, you have to spell those out for these people, because not everybody knows what you're talking about. I mean, even just from Navy to Army to the Marines to the Air Force to Coast Guard, you name it, we're talking the same language. We just may use different verbiage to get that same opinion across. So you might be like, oh, well, that guy, the guy that I'm interviewing with is ex-military, but that he is interviewing you, but he's not the one that may be selecting those that come across the table of the matrix. It's somebody else that is looking at that. And if they don't know what you're talking about, you're going to be hard pressed to get past that initial section.
100%. And, the making your resume more readable for the average, everyday civilian that doesn't know the military, doesn't know the lingo is very key. There's a lot of steps, and I'll probably do a quick class. I'm working on actually putting on a webinar with some very good friends of mine that are experts in resume writing and the recruiting world on how to actually achieve that, how to, make it more civilian friendly. But then also like all the tools and the tips and things that you should do to your resume to like make it hotter, to make it get up front, right? Because here's a big misconception that you have when you're getting out of the military. One of the biggest misconceptions is you automatically think that because I'm a veteran, my name is going to go to the top of the list. I'm automatically going to get up there. They're going to see veteran and my resume is going up in that bucket. And that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that is out there. Maybe in civil service where you might, some areas give an extra 10 points. Like if you're going for, like here in our area, if you're going for the police department, they might give you 10 extra points for, your veteran status and honorable discharge, so that'll help you, on the score or whatever as they rank things. But from an average, from an average job or non-civil service job, not an average job, but non-civil service job, that veteran ranking is really isn't going to get you to the top of the list, right?
No, and also you put down a preference, disabled vet, 10 points, regular individual getting out, maybe getting 5 points. But you still have to have that dynamic resume and the qualifications to go along with that 10 points, that 5 points, because again, not all jobs are the same when it comes to the point scale. Like federal might do it, the police department, state jobs may give a little bit, but if let's just use us two as an example. If John has the better resume and he has the skills, he may beat out my 10 points because he has right now skills to get the job done. Just because you're a vet doesn't mean that you're going to be at top of the list and you're going to automatically get that job. Don't assume that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me walk through how I look at things when I'm, recruiting. So like this is a real scenario. Like this is real deal. If I put out a requisition or a job posting and I blast it to Indeed, I blast it to ZipRecruiter, I throw it on LinkedIn, within a day, in today's market, within a day, I probably have 200, 250 applicants. Easy. In that one day. I don't have time to go review all 250 applicants. The first thing I'm going to do is look at locations. Are these people located in the area that we're looking for this person to be in? Because we may or we may not have relo, but if we don't have relo and you're not in that area, you're going to the bottom. I'm not disqualifying you, but you're going to the bottom. And then I'm looking at experience and job titles and tenure and how many years of experience. And all these things is in these systems like Workday and Greenhouse, all these big applicant tracking systems, they all have a way of being able, every recruiter is going to have their own workflow, but they all have a way of showing you really quick before you even look at the resume. It's just right here up top. It's showing you, okay, John Gowana, he's got, it shows years of experience, 11 years of experience in talent acquisition or in recruiting or in human resources, right? It'll say like the specific department that I've been in, how many years I've been there, what was my last title. And then if that piques my interest, because that years of experience is telling me that that's what the hiring manager is looking for, I'm going to go ahead and put a check mark. I'm going to check the box next to that applicant's name, and I'm going to keep working before I even get to the resumes.
Wow.
And once I have a good 25, 30, 40 solid candidates from my 250, 300 applicants, now I'm going back and I'm visiting the resume. But when I've got that many applicants, still, when I've got a pipeline of 30, 40, 50 applicants, that's still a lot of resume reading. That is still a lot. Before I even pick up the phone and try to schedule a phone screen with you, I'm I'm still like trying to verify, do I want to spend the time to pick up the phone with you? Right. So now I am quickly looking through the resume and understanding what you can do and does it meet the requirements for the hiring manager. Right. So when I get a job description, and let's say you came to me and you said, hey, John, I need to hire, this type of, this skill set, or this is the job posting that I need. Cool. Perfect. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You as the hiring manager, I want to know what you're looking for. I'm going to ask you, what are the top 3 skill sets that you are looking for? Not tangible. I want to know skill sets. Tangible, we can find. What are the hard skills that they have to have? How many years do they have to have it? Is there a certain type of software? Is there, are you looking, if it's like something more, Excel related, is it VLOOKUPs? Is it pivot tables? What are you looking for from that? Is there a certain tech stack that you're looking for? What are the skills that you are looking for? Give me the top 3. I don't need 5. I need the top 3 because then I can narrow down those resumes, right? So as I start to understand, I use a series of about 15 questions that I take to every hiring manager. And this allows me to really, it does 2 things. It gives me exactly what you're looking for. And it also lets me poke holes in your job description. But also I can now understand what a day in the life looks like for that new hire. So as I'm talking to candidates, I'm able to give them a realistic expectation of the job, what kind of KPIs they'll be held to and all this stuff. But it also lets me dive into those resumes and understand what that hiring manager is looking for before I even call you. So if you don't have those top 3 qualifications, you're not getting a call.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done. At that point, you might have stood out in the first 40 or 50 applicants, but now that I've dove into your resume, you don't have those top 3 skill sets, you're done. Because what happens is you might have 2 of the 3 in your applicant number 49, and you might have 2 of the 3 skill sets, but applicants 1 through 15 have all 3 of them, you're done. Because I've already got 15 and I still have another 200 candidates that I can go through if I got through this layer first and still needed additional candidates. What we do as recruiters, folks, is we work off of something called gear ratios. Every recruiter probably has a different workflow and a different way of calling it. I call it gear ratios. What it tells me is based off of data for a particular job or a particular skill set, I have to identify X amount of candidates in order to get X amount of phone screens, in order to have X amount of people in front of the hiring manager for that hiring manager to make a decision. And usually when I'm talking to that hiring manager and asking them this series of questions, I want to know, when do you want to hire? That way I know where that job in my book of business falls so that I know how quickly I need to move. Or you might say, don't really need to hire him for 60 days. Okay, cool. I'm going to put the job posting out and I'm going to work the rec, but I'm not going to really, really work the rec until probably we're closer to that 30 days out. I'll probably really start working it. And so, because every recruiter is working somewhere, it could be 5, 6 recs, or, there's been times where I've got 20 plus positions, on my desk and I don't have time, or even like, as I've led teams on a global level, my recruiters can have 12, 15 positions, but those 12, 15 positions that they're working on, one might be here in San Antonio, the other one might be in New York, and all over the place, or, in another country sometimes. So like, we don't have a lot of time
to just sit on these resumes and like read through them and try to siphon out all your stuff. I'm looking for the top stuff on here that's really catching my eye, that hits all those bullet points that I need, and the things that obviously now that we just learned that the hiring manager is looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And the other side to that is, so like the point that I was trying to get to with this is that the misconception of I'm a veteran, I'm going to get to the top of the list. Chances are I didn't even see that. Whoa. Because the ATS system doesn't recognize. Well, let me back that up. It does recognize it, but there's something called EEOC, and within the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, there's EEO1, And that's usually when you go and you put out an application and it asks you, what is your gender? Are you disabled? Are you a veteran? Are you a disabled veteran? And you select those things. It gathers data, but it doesn't bring that to the recruiter. Why do you think it doesn't bring that to a recruiter? Best guess.
It's not vital to the position.
It's not vital to the position. And what can it do? It can create unconscious biases.
Oh, we talked about this like a couple weeks ago, guys.
Exactly. So those things, the recruiters don't see them. Right now, if you have veteran on your resume as I'm going down, right, because I'm going to, if you got to that part where I'm looking at your resume, I'm going to see that, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you've got your time in service, on your resume, right? So that's when I will, actually see it. But the reality is, like, when I'm reading resumes and I'm going through them, if you've got 15 or 20 skills, because you put your objective, right? Looking for a job where I can showcase my role as a manager or leader, whatever the case might be, right? I'm flying by the seat of my pants right here, but you have your objective, and then you have your skills, and your skills are just bullet points of, maybe it's a tech stack that, maybe it's, maybe you're a CPA, maybe, logistic. There's a certain specific software and logistics that you use, whatever the case is. You start putting those bullet points, right? I've seen this where I've had applicants have 25 bullets or 25 different skills in this one part of the resume, and I haven't even got to their first job yet. When I see that, I'm like, nope, next. I don't have time to read through all that stuff. I need to get to the meat and potatoes. And then when I get to your job and it says, you were, a manager or at this company, or, you've done this with this company, or you were in the military for this many years, and this is the title you had. You were a staff sergeant with, the United States Army, you led a fire team or whatever the case is. If I get there and I see the generic stuff, responsible for $2.5 million worth of equipment, automatically now you didn't give yourself a chance, because those things are generic. You know what I'm saying? Those things are generic. And that's me and I'm one that when I find that you're a veteran, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to take a second, like I'm going to give it a thorough look, because I'm rooting for you. There's many times where I've had to go to hiring managers and say, look, I get it, right? They don't have X, Y, and Z, but I promise you, because of their skills doing this job, they can do the job that you're looking for, and like get them to the table. Other recruiters don't do that because they don't understand it. If a recruiter is not a veteran or hasn't taken the time to learn or get involved in veteran commissions within their network, they will never understand all of the acronyms, all of the jazz that's military related, and you'll never get to the table.
Right. And then being able to break your military job down in the most common way so everybody can understand. But you also have to look at your job and know that you did a lot more than you leading on to, or that you think you did, right? To say you were in charge of so many hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars worth of equipment, what does that mean? Okay, so it's not so generic. Talking about how much where those bomb skids were, or what did you do with those things, might be a little bit more better than I handled X amount of millions of dollars of equipment.
Yeah,
because we all did. You was in a tank. You handled. We all know that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm not trying to say like you weren't responsible for that amount of equipment. It's just the amount of people that use it as a bullet point doesn't decipher you from the competition that's out there in the civilian world, right? And things that you have to do is you have to be able to quantize your resume. You have to quantize your bullet points. You have to give specifics. You have to use action words to make it exciting.
Yes.
Right? Lots of tools out there. We are in a time in 2025, guys. We are in a time that is better than any time we've ever seen for you getting ready to or even if you've been out for a while and you're still trying to figure out how to navigate the civilian job market. We're in a time that is unlike any other. And why? Because we have tools available to us that we didn't have 2 years ago. We have tools. And I guarantee you this. Let me tell you this. I guarantee you recruiters are using these tools every single day to make their lives easier and quicker by saying, hey, I'm sending all of these through AI to
cheat code
to pull out the best ones.
It's a cheat code. It's right there. It's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
The AI situation could be a little bit scary for some because we don't really fully understand it. But you can use it right now. You could use it so much to your advantage.
Man, one of the best ways that you can use AI, ChatGPT, right? It's the easiest one to figure out. You know what I should do is I should write out prompts. I should write out prompts, throw them on the website, like a little how-to thing, like a how-to guide on ChatGPT.
That'd be great.
But guys, this is what you need to do. Let's say you have a job that you are excited about. You saw the job posting and you are excited about it. You think that job you would do really well at. Take that job description and put it into ChatGPT. Before you do that, you tell ChatGPT, I am a recruiter. I am working on this job. I am going to give you a job description. And you feed the job description to ChatGPT. And then you tell it, now I'm going to give you a resume. Rank this resume to the job description. I guarantee you it'll tell you everything that you are missing from that job description on that resume. Take your resume that you have, say, this was my job in the military. I did it for X amount of years. I've led this many soldiers. I've trained, developed, mentored, coached, all those things. Take that resume, throw it into ChatGPT and prompt it to give you bullet points that are more civilian friendly. You're not lying. You're not changing what you've done. You're making it more civilian friendly so that everyday recruiters that don't understand all the lingo can get in there and understand your resume. This will help you taking that job description, pulling it in, pulling your resume together with it and comparing it. Use those things so that you can have the opportunity to win.
Yeah, it's just tools. It's just right here in your face, tools that could be used to your advantage. Utilize those things so you can be competitive in the job market that is today. I mean, John talked about him seeing 200 plus in one day, right? And some jobs are open a week, 2 weeks. So now we're just generating more and more and more applications. And you need your resume to be able to flow in that top 20, I'd say. And I'm no recruiter of no sort, right?
Yeah.
I'm boots on the ground kind of a guy, but I want to play in that top 15 to 20, man. Because if I can get scheduled for the interview, then we're playing. But I can't get there if I don't have the necessary tools laid out on my resume to get me face to face. So utilize the things that are out there to get you where you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Reach out to me. Go on the website FromBootsToSuits.com. My email's on the bottom. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Reach out to me. Reach out to JR. I would be happy to help you write that resume. And help and give you, I won't write it for you, but I'll give you all the tips that you need and give you, some guidance on it. If I have the time, I would write everybody's resume, but I don't. There's also some other things out there that you can use, like Resume Nerd. That's a great tool for formatting your resume correctly. Because the other side of it is just simple formatting, and overlook things. Font gets overlooked sometimes, and you might have 2 or 3 different fonts and you didn't even realize it because you've had so many friends looking at it and trying to make revisions to it, and then you just simply forget, and then that automatically The number one thing that tells the recruiters, oh, they don't pay attention to detail. When you're in the military, we know you pay attention to detail. You have to dress right, dress every single thing. Like, don't make that mistake. It happens. It happens a lot. But again, there's so many tools out there that we didn't have even 2 years ago that are just like can be used for the greater good. And that's one of them, is just learning how to use ChatGPT, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, everybody uses it in today's world. You know, the company I work for, all the C-suite, they're constantly using it to help them. They call it their admin. It helps make their lives a little bit easier on certain things, right? Why not use that tool to help get your resume polished, right? More civilian friendly. Look at other people in that, you know, if you're not on LinkedIn yet, get on LinkedIn. Follow us all as well. We're on LinkedIn, from Boots to Suits, but get on LinkedIn. You need to start driving that network on LinkedIn, because a lot of times today it's not about what you know, or it's not just about what you know. It's also about who you know, and building that network to get to the table. Because I'll be honest with you, a while back, the last company I was working for, one of my recruiters that I brought on, I didn't know her as a recruiter. I had probably within, and this was 2023 timeframe, where recruiters were getting laid off left and right. And there was just, the job market was all over the place, and recruiters were the first ones to go. And so, you know, I put out this job posting for I needed a senior recruiter on my team. And within a few days, I had 1,100 applicants from my local area. And it was like, there's no way I'm getting through all of these. And also, I don't have time to make a mistake on my hiring. So I started to look at, who am I connected to in my applicants? Who am I connected to that, you know, that I can, you know, do a reference check and vouch for and all this stuff. What ended up happening was people in my network started reaching out to me and saying, hey, so-and-so used to work for me, had to lay them off. Fantastic recruiter. They just applied to the job. You should at least, you know, give them a shot to, you know, come in and talk to you. And that's how I ended up finding one of my last recruiters, was through my network reaching out saying, hey, I've got this person for you, you know, they're applying to the job, you know. So your network goes so much further than your resume does, because if I've got somebody that I trust, that I know, that I've worked with in the past, or I know from my work and my network, and they're telling me I've got a really great person that's on the job market, I'm going to go look for that person regardless of where they fell in the applicant system.
Right.
Because there's no rule for me as a recruiter that says I have to go in order of applications.
Yeah, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to at least go take a look at them because of the person that is vouching for you, or that is in my downline of friends or associates, business-wise, that are reaching out saying, hey, JR has great skills, this, that, and the third, and you should at least give him a look. Mm-hmm. Well, if John's saying that to Pete, then Pete's going to be like, well, I know John, and if John is vouching for this guy, I'm at least going to give him a look, because I trust John.
That's right. And that network goes a long way. So again, guys, if you're not on LinkedIn already, get on LinkedIn. You know, the whole idea of today's episode is just giving you some tools of, you know, navigating through, you know, the initial infancy stages, right? Do the research in your market. Number one,
huge.
Do the research in your market. You know, a lot of times we're stuck on, I'm going home, which is fine if that's where you're going, but then understand what that market is doing and what types of jobs are available in abundance in that area, and start networking in that area, right? And also understand, what is the cost of living in that area? What is Glassdoor telling you about the jobs that you're looking for? But, you know, doing the research on your market, even if it's your own hometown, picking that 5, 7, 10 different jobs that you might want to go into, and understanding what those look like and how are you going to get there? Do you have the skills? Because that's the other thing, is transferable skills. You have a ton of them. but you got to understand how to relate those transferable skills from your military experience to the resume.
Yes.
You're being judged off a piece of paper. You're being judged off a piece of paper that someone is giving you 30 seconds to. Like, that is a proven fact. There has been studies done. The average time a recruiter takes to look at your resume is 30 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, so that means you got to make it big, make yourself big on that resume out the gate. Your initial paragraph, your initial 2 to 3, maybe 4 sentences at the top of that resume has to be, that's where you got to kill. That's where you got to kill, right? That cover letter. Like, let's not forget that. That cover letter, it's vital. It's vital. So, take your time on those things. Interview people that are in the job market.
Yeah.
Make some phone calls. Find out people that are in that area. Are you willing to relocate? Is going home the end all be all? I know it's a safe place for us all. I'm going to go back home after I get out of the military. I'm going to play that area.
Yeah.
But is that actually the right place for you in your job market and what you're trying to achieve out of the market in which you're trying to go to?
Yeah.
San Antonio may not be that spot for you. You may have to go Tennessee.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But what are you willing to do to operate in the space that you want to operate in?
Yeah,
Huge.
that's a huge thing, right? Is yeah, like, everybody wants to go home because that's their safe place, because that's where their family is, their friends are, and all that stuff. But think about this. A lot of times people join the military to get away from what was at home in the first place. Do you really want to go back to that? Like, consider that. I'm not saying that for everybody. I'm just saying that could be a factor in your decision on what you're doing as you're navigating through this transition period. And if that was the case, then do you think that going home is the best place for you? And now some circumstances that might be the only place, and that's fine. Just set yourself up for success. Make sure you've got a plan. Make sure you've got a 30, 60, 90. You're going to hear this a lot in the corporate world. What is your 30, 60, 90? Set yourself up for, 30 days out of the military, this is what I'm doing. 60 days out, this is where I need to be. 90 days out. That plan is going to change. It's not going to go picture perfect, but at least you have a plan and you have something to get up to every day and start putting, to the test and start pushing yourself to that next step, walking through that and, going out and finding what that job might be for you. And even like you said earlier, in those jobs that you choose that you feel are the best jobs for you, start reaching out to people that are doing them and understand what a day in the life is, because it might not be exactly what you perceive that job to be,
Right.
So,
here's a question for you. When a person is creating a resume and they are detailing it to that specific job, is there a way to structure your resume? Meaning, like, I'm going to put the summary first, then my objectives, and then skills, and then I'm going to put down my actual stuff that I did. Is there a way that some jobs may look at that on how you actually put it together, or is it okay to just do your resume the normal standard, whatever I picked off a Word?
Yeah, so I wouldn't use Word for any of the formats. Spend $20, go on Resume Nerd, or there's several others. Resume Nerd is one that I use when I used to do a lot of resume writing for others, because it was quick. The format was quick to put it together, and I knew it was going to look sharp and be, polished when I was done with it. But I would always say is your objective right up top, right? Okay, so like who you are, so I know how to get a hold of you. Your objective right up top, your skills, right? Your skills, whatever those are, 9 bullet points, 9 skills max. Don't go more than 12. 9 is probably where I would live, right around there. So, you might say something like, for me, I would say something like, applicant tracking systems. I would put, Workday proficient, or actually I'm Workday Pro certified. So I'd put Workday Pro certified, things like that. So I would do all of those things, put those as my skills because those are what people in my industry would be looking for, any certifications that you have up there, if it's specific to like a CRM, to like Salesforce or something, put, Salesforce certified or whatever in that skill, because that's going to make you stand out. And then right after skills is the last position that you were in, and then work that backwards all the way to the beginning. The other thing is you don't want your resume to be 3, 4, 5 pages long. You also don't want in your resume, you don't want to have in your, for your job bullet points, you don't want to have 5, 6, 7 bullet points for every single one of your jobs. You want to have 3 or 4 max for every one of those jobs. And so you want to make, and that's why you have to use action words. That's why you want to quantize, the things that you've done. Something like as simple as like, let's just take being, an NCO in the military. One thing that you might have done is in your training cycles, you might have made a change to the way that you're training your individual group, your fire team, or your squad that's under you. And you might have, in that change, it might have positively affected, the output by, 20%. So you would want to write something like that, like adopted, created this SOP that effectively, affected our output by 20% of this, that, and the other, right? So that's what I mean by quantizing your resume, because you want to put, what you've done, you want to put numbers to it, and you want to put an output to it, increased our logistics efficiency by X amount, increased, this or whatever by this amount. Those are the types of things that stick out to recruiters and hiring managers, because look, at the end of the day, I might like you. I might have picked up the phone and spent half an hour talking to you, going through and making sure that, your resume is up to par and you can do what you have on your resume. You can do what you say you can do. But I still, as a recruiter, have to go sell that to the hiring manager.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the way I like to see resumes. That's the way I've always written them is, I do my objective, I do my skills, I do my, my jobs, my previous jobs, 3 to 4 bullet points, making sure I'm using action items, making sure I'm quantizing. And then after that, like your education stuff, and I'd put that at the very end. Some people, I've seen this, and I got into a huge debate probably a year ago with a recruiter about he called military awards a bunch of cookies. And so I got into this huge debate with several recruiters, actually, because it turned into this huge thing on LinkedIn. I got to go back and find it so I can highlight it and throw it up here. But they're like the post was something around the nature of like, hey, veterans, quit putting your military awards on your resume. Those are just cookies in the jar. Like nobody really cares about them. And it's like, like I took offense to it, but then I started to think about it. I'm like, well, how easy is it to get an Army accommodation medal? Like at some point, if you do all the things that you're going to do, you're going to get an Army accommodation medal, right? You're going to get an ARCOM. Maybe if you had, something higher than that, a Bronze Star or something, like maybe I would maybe put it on there. But I always ask myself when I'm writing other people's resumes, or as I'm, looking at other people's resumes and giving them feedback, is what's on your resume going to help you stand out amongst the crowd? An ARCOM really isn't going to do that, but quantizing what you did in the military is going to, and there's a lot of good things there. There's a lot of everybody's career path is a little bit different. Everybody, you might have the same job. You could have had the same job, but our career paths and what we've done isn't necessarily the same. And so that's what we want to see is we want to see what was different about you and John Smith, and, how are you better than John Smith? And then plus everybody else that's in the job market.
Having to do that on paper.
Yeah.
Sell yourself.
It's
you have to sell yourself on paper, because you're not going to get in front of them to sell yourself in person if you don't have the necessary things done properly on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is probably another episode, later on too, but as you're building your LinkedIn profile, there's a way to do that too, because if I'm searching on LinkedIn for a specific type of, for a job, for a specific type of person, there are certain things on LinkedIn from the LinkedIn recruiter side that will trigger your profile to my search, right? So there's ways that you want to write your LinkedIn. It's like a biography of you. It's like who are you, and what have you done? So there's certain things that you got to do there. It's probably like a whole nother class, whole nother episode of just LinkedIn, on how to do that. But that's, there's so many different ways, but also it's so much easier because there's so many AI tools out there as well that can help you deliver and stand out and be someone that makes it through that 200, 300, 400 applicants, because I tell you, when we're going 100 miles an hour, we're not looking at all of them. We're quickly looking at, do you fit what we're looking for? How many years of experience? What was what were the job titles? Because all those things are going to show up on like this small little snippet of who you are before we even click your resume.
Wow. Because when I do hiring at my job, yeah, I don't get any of you guys' stuff until it's game time.
Yeah.
So maybe like 2 or 3 days before your interview, then I'll get some information that I can read over, like your resume. I can read it over. So I sit in front of you with a team, because we do ours as a board. So it's myself, another sergeant, and probably a lieutenant that's going to be up there. You might have an admin person, you may have a human resource person, but there's going to be 3 or 4 people on your hiring board for your interview.
Yeah.
And we're just round robin questioning. But me, even if you're coming to work for me and I'm on the interview board, I haven't seen any of your stuff. So somebody else has done all the work.
Yeah.
And then I get an email saying that you have interviews for this. I looked at your calendar. You have an open date on this day. We're going to do interviews. You have 4 of them. And then I get to see what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I kind of glance over it. I'm like, okay, this guy, this girl sounds good. Let's see what happens in the interview.
Right.
We ask you a bunch of questions, complete that interview, and then we grade you.
And that's the wild thing is, like, we're talking, you're a hiring manager, I'm a hiring manager. I work with hiring managers and different workflows and just, 2 different companies, right?
Yes.
Like, because for me, my recruiters are always they're building that relationship with the hiring manager. And so they're going to the hiring, before we even set that candidate for a resume, they've had a meeting with the hiring manager and they've brought like their top 5 candidates based off of, their phone screens, through their pipeline, through their funnel. They've narrowed it down to this top 5 and they're giving those to the hiring manager. The hiring manager is going to pick the top 3 from there, because that's 3 hours of interview time. Right. And so but that just goes to shows that every company, every organization is going to operate a little bit differently on when you actually get to the hiring manager's desk.
Yes.
And so everything has to be polished from the time you submit it to the time that you get in front of the hiring manager. And then still, like, while we're in this day of data, don't show up without a paper copy in hand of your resume. God, that grinds my gears. When people do that, it's like, as a recruiter, like, sometimes if you have a good recruiter and they're walking you in to, the facility, and they're walking you to the conference room where you're going to get interviewed, they might have your resume printed out just in case you didn't bring it. Like, that's a good recruiter, but not everybody is like that, so, that could be the deciding factor on whether or not you got the job, because you were the one of the 3 candidates that didn't show up with a resume in their hand. And now the hiring manager's got to, open up their laptop or, send a text to the recruiter to get a resume printed out and, all that stuff. And
yeah, I literally, like, the last interview I went on, I had my resume with me, had a couple of them. I passed them out. A little old school, but I passed them out. And they were on resume paper. Spent a little money. I mean, it's not expensive, but made sure I just want whatever I can do to be a little bit notch possibly ahead of you. And then I had a notepad so I can take notes.
Yep.
And then I also research. It's a little free game. I researched everybody that was on the hiring panel.
Yeah.
Because they sent me an email that had these different people on there. And so I went in to look who I'm going to be working for. And I knew as much as I could about them. And so then I was able to ask each one of them questions pertaining to some of the things that I know they do. And even one of them had a side business, and I was able to talk about that.
Yeah.
So just finding those little things can really, really help you out, you know, knowing like the mission statement, simple little thing, like knowing the mission statement for the company that you're going to go work for.
Yeah.
You know, and you can have it written down on your little thing, so you can just kind of drop down and be like, yeah, I understand you guys do X, Y, and Z here, and this, that, and the third. And
let me tell you one of my favorite tips, right? Because like, again, we got to do a whole nother episode on just interview techniques because that's a whole nother thing, but from the resume, but this is one of my favorite techniques from an interview standpoint is, guys, understand this. When you go into the interview, it's not just for them to interview you. It is an opportunity for you to interview them. Why? Because you want to know, is this the company that I really want to work for? I need to know that they're a good fit for me too. And a lot of times we're just like, I just need the job or whatever, and we forget that, and we're just so nervous that we're hoping that we get the job that we forget to interview them too. But one of my favorite things to do, and like you just said, when you're there in the interview, you don't have to remember all the core values of the company, and you should go onto the website and look up the core values, because do they align with your values is a huge thing. Glassdoor will also give you a lot of that insight too. But one of my favorite things to do from a interview standpoint as the interviewee is I have all the core values there written down, because you're not going to remember them. There's so much dialogue going on. You're not going to, like, off the top of your head, think of like, what was the webpage? Okay. Have them written down. And so as you're jotting down notes, you have them right there in front of you. But one of my favorite things to do is asking that hiring manager what of the core values stands out to him or her the most and why.
Come on.
And then I follow it up with, well, give me a time when you've demonstrated that core value with your team. Why? Because now I'm interviewing them as a leader, right? And if they don't even know the core values of the company, that means that those are just letters and words on the wall when you walk into that door, and nobody's following them. And that is a huge red flag. Do you really want to spend your time there? Like, that's one of my favorite things to do when I'm walking into an interview.
Yeah.
Is put it on them. Ask that hiring manager, what is your favorite? Out of all the core values, what is the one that stands out to you the most? And then how have you demonstrated utilizing that core value with your team?
Yeah, interviewing is a whole nother different ballgame. I can't wait to get into that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll probably get into that sometime this month. I got a couple of guests that are trying to get on as well, which I think is really exciting. Start getting our guests on to talk about, not only their struggles, but their successes and how they navigated those. Because this is like, from Boots to Suits, isn't just about, it's not just about you and I sharing our stories on how we overcame certain things and then how we got to where we're at today. But it's also about others that have been there, because the more that we share those stories, and normalizing, like, the fact that people struggle and they've been able to overcome those struggles, the better off, we're all going to be as a group, as a network, continue to grow, continue to help our own community,
Yes.
and really build that community around it. So, once again, appreciate you guys joining in for another episode of From Boots to Suits. Again, I'm your host, John, my brother from another mother, Glenn Jr.
Go Navy.
Oh man,
I think we beat Army this
yeah,
year.
y'all did. Yeah, no, it wasn't even. I think the Army forgot there was a game or something. It was pretty sad.
Oh, real quick before we get out of here. So my son graduated boot camp in mid-December, late December. Oh, it was cold. Being here in Texas, it can get cold, but we don't have the gear for Chicago cold. So it's a little frosty over there. But hey, man, it was such an experience to be back on the base again at Great Lakes, and it just seemed the same.
Yeah,
like nothing changed. I mean, it was newer buildings. Obviously, they painted.
Sure.
20-something odd years since I was there. I'm probably almost like 30. But yeah, almost like 30 years. But to see the guys marching around, the guys and ladies marching around, they do things quite a bit different than when I was there.
Sure.
There was guys and girls in the same division.
Yeah.
I know we were in the same ship. I think we had some girls that lived upstairs, but we marched. I mean, we were on our own. It was the dudes,
right?
And the
right.
girls,
so much different.
With the girls, right? Which was fine, right? But they're all integrated, which is super cool. But it was just a great feeling to see all the recruits out there and them marching by, and they see in the Air Force, some Air Force guys are out there, and some Army and Marines guys that was out there watching their kids or nephews or whoever they were, and watching the guys, the troops walk by marching and sing songs and shooting shots at the other branches of the military as they're walking by. That was pretty funny, man. I was super excited. So shout out to all the men and women out there, whether you're in the Navy, Army, Air Force, or whatever that graduated. Thank you for your service already. You guys, thank you. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we continue support to all of our active duty, our veterans, and those that are just starting off in that journey, because it's always continuous. We all, there's always a generation behind us that will continue to protect this great nation, because we can't do it forever. But thank you guys again for joining us from Boots to Suits. Again, Happy New Year. If you don't mind, please share this with somebody that could use it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your colleague, your coworkers. Like, share, subscribe on all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Just help us out, get the word out there. We've got a lot of things coming in 2025, and we're excited about it. Also, if you haven't picked out your mug yet, we've also got some other merch and apparel. All that stuff helps continue to drive this thing forward, and keep the podcast going, as well as things that we're trying to put together that are just help support the community and things like that. So appreciate you guys' support, and we'll see you on the next one.